We're now recording. I want to welcome everyone here for the regular weekly discussion on hypnosis. And I started this so I sort of get to name the topics. But if anyone has a topic we'd like to discuss, please throw it out there. This will be recorded and aired on YouTube. So if those people who are listening to this on YouTube, you can get on this call live. Just contact me directly and we'll go from there. So the name of this topic is hypnotizing ghosts. Now, part of this is to the fact that it's nearing Halloween. Part of it is due to something that I serendipitously came across when I was reading some information about Buddhist literature. And for the sake of this topic, a ghost is a metaphor, and it's a metaphor for the things that haunt us. Be a fear, a trauma, it could be some relentless need, want. This is how hypnosis can help release people from their ghosts. So how do you recognize a ghost? Well, there are places in many cities that are nothing more than camping tents by a river. And the people that live there live just enough to survive to get the drugs that they need. And when you see these people, you can sort of hard to imagine that some ghost is following them around. And likewise, when you see a teenager holding their phone, scrolling Instagram or TikTok relentlessly, and then not looking up after 3 hours, they too have some sort of ghost. Now, in the Buddhist philosophy, it's referred to as a hungry ghost. And a hungry ghost, you can imagine, has this huge belly, but just a pinhole for a mouth. It's just like nothing but insatiable appetite. And it can never eat fast enough or enough to satisfy itself. And again, in Buddhist philosophy, these are these ghosts that around and cling to them to gain some sort of aliveness, some sort of vitality. But of course, because it's the hungry ghost, it devours much of the person in the process. How this sort of changed me when I sort of came across it is I have, for a very long time, there's this show that's on, it's a reality TV show or a documentary, what do you call it? Hoarders. And it's about people who are hoarders. They collect things that they cannot get rid of. And they will have in there, they cannot get rid of their own trash. And when you watch this show, you see people who are looking in this incredibly disheveled environment, just full of messes. And to pick up a used McDonald's bag that's been empty and to throw it away, it causes them pain. And for me personally, when I saw that, I know that they're in some sort of suffering, but it was something that was so far outside my ability to relate to. I could not watch it. It was just painful for me to imagine it. And then when I came across the concept of a hungry ghost, it gave me so much more clarity. And I began to see, okay, these people, they have some sort of, for lack of a better term, an entity, a spirit that is controlling them. Now, it's a part of them, it's a part of their subconscious mind. These hungry ghosts are built from wants and needs and fears and the need for approval and learned helplessness and the desire for recognition. And what's important to realize is that every one of us in some way has had a ghost in our life driving us. I personally spent a good 40, I still go to the gym, but for a good 30 years of that going to the gym, it was something I couldn't not do. It was something that I simply built my life around. And it took a lot of things to change this so that I could actually do it in a way that was not obsessive, but was healthy, in fact. Likewise, in my youth, I was chasing women like a crazy man, and it was painfully obsessive. So, in retrospect, though, I see a lot of that was coming for a need of validation and things like that. So, understanding that when you're working, let's talk about hypnotists first. Hypnotists, when you're working with somebody, see the ghost that's sort of driving them, and that separates you from all sort of judgment about the person. And so you can look at them with a lot more compassion and recognize that these hungry ghosts in one way or another that has affected our lives. When you're dealing with a person, and it doesn't really even matter the process you use in hypnosis, what you're doing is to heal the ghost first and not the person. And when you heal the ghost doesn't have to be there anymore. Years ago, when I started, I shared an office with a hypnotist who called himself an exorcist. And he would hypnotize somebody, he'd get them in a state and talk to something that has attached to the person. And unlike traditional exorcists, you don't curse them and you throw the will of God upon them. And what you do is you heal them. You ask this entity, in his theory, what it truly wanted and what it would need to let go. And while I never did this myself, he had really good results with people. One of the weird parts about it was I would have one client in my office, but he would have another client in his office who was screaming and yelling. And I'd have to pacify my client and say, everything's fine, or we can reschedule. That happened occasionally. But nonetheless, he had really good results. Another good process that really does help direct to finding the ghosts is the core transformations by Connie Ray Andreas. And in that process, the way that you can recognize someone's, we'll call it a ghost in this case, is when they say, I want to do this, but there's a part of me that holds me back. So once they say those words, you start recognizing that part is the part you're going to heal. And if you've ever read Core Transformations by Connie Ray Andreas, it is an incredibly just fluid and beautiful process where you talk to this part, you ask it what it wants, you offer it what it wants and see what it wants more, and you just keep giving what it wants until it feels totally and completely satisfied and it no longer has to cling to this person. And so after the hypnosis process of doing this, you ask the person, how's that part doing? And their response is, it's not here anymore. It's like they've been lifted, they've been exorcised, so to speak. So the whole benefit of this, and I'm not sure how long I can continue to speak about this, the whole benefit of this has been to just recognize when you go out and you see people, just sort of imagine what could be the hungry ghosts that are following them. And it stops all of your sense of judgment. And that's the biggest process here. So there are lots of ways of doing it. What I want to do is open this up. If someone has an observation or a question, just let's continue this discussion. Alex, I think you have something to say.
Yes, I was just reminded of that phrase from a book that I read, and it said that every conversation is addressing an unmet need, and that ties in with the ghosts that haunt people, because you
Mhm.
can, if you do enough people watching, you can actually imagine a
Yeah.
person's conversation being not the person doing the conversing with their friend or their relative or something like that, but the ghost inside them that's actually driving the conversation.
All right.
Whatever it is that they're talking about, if they're talking about a need that they need to fulfill, and they're talking about that, um, it's not them; it's their ghost inside them. So yeah, that it's. I'd say that the first part of being able to exercise a ghost is to be able to identify it in people, and for me, that's people watching. I go out and I have a nice cup of green tea, and I just watch the people around me. By
Mhm.
watch, I mean mostly listen, because
Yeah,
it's the conversations that I'd like to hear more than anything else. Your words betray you,
it's
and
true.
in the way that you say them, more than just the actual words, is how you say them, because you know when someone's addressing that unmet need, because all of a sudden the tone of their voice changes, and yeah, there's all sorts of different signs. So
Yeah,
yeah.
the uh, people people have a mask that they want to put up that hides their ghosts, their fears.
Hmm.
Uh, and so if you're able to realize, okay, this is a mask that's talking, but what are the needs that drive the conversation? And it's usually uh, approval, acceptance, trying to have a sense of importance. Sometimes it's pity, sometimes it's intelligence. I have a very dear friend who speaks to me regularly about his work, and he'll always talk about. And I've written 27 books, and he talks about, and I've made this video that has 20,000. Tells me he really wants that sense of yeah, what's it called? It's not part of it's validation, but part of it is the sense of importance. And yeah, and you talk about, yes, Alex mentioned uh, the 6 minute X-ray. Absolutely a vital piece of work that will, in fact, help you see the ghosts beyond people. Uh,
Definite resume statement.
Say that again.
Definite resume statement from Chase's
Yeah,
point of view.
yeah. Uh, it's a res. They want to demonstrate their significance. Uh, and I love this guy. He's that I talk to regularly, but it's every conversation he talks about um, how he wants to his achievements. And there's another question you can ask that I think is an awesome question, and that is ask anyone what fictional character do they see themselves as. It could be a real person or a fictional character, and my friend, he didn't even hesitate. He said Superman. Okay, this is awesome. And in fact, I put a little picture on his when he calls me of a superhero, so that I know he calls. Uh, uh, yeah, Alex, it's not mind reading. It's simply neurons firing off. That's perfect. Excellent. So, anyone else here? So, and let's talk about those six,
Yeah.
five needs. One of the ones that really sort of struck me, and I had to sort of read it and understand it, is people often in a context will want to be recognized, will demonstrate pity. They'll talk about a hurt, a pain, an injury, a trauma. And all they're wanting, they don't want to be told they're okay or that they're going to be better. All they want to hear is, you have really been hurting. They want people to know how difficult it has been. And all you have to do to appeal to that part of them is let them know. And I say these words, I cannot imagine how much you've had to go through. You do that, and it speaks to that part of them immediately. Yeah. Em, do you have an observation or question?
Yeah. Yeah, I was shook about how similar the idea of about the ghosts are to the topic we did a couple of weeks ago about disassociation and how they broke down into separate parts. I'm thinking perhaps the two methods might tie in with each other somehow. Maybe use a protocol that you would use for someone who's disassociating and how you address that, and then use that in the same way you could address the ghost, perhaps.
Yeah, the process that I would use in that particular case is, and again, it's in the operations manual, is the room with two chairs. Typically, I have them bring themselves in, but I'd have them bring this ghost in, this part that's disassociated from them, and begin a conversation. And when they start to recognize this part of them is doing things they don't want, their first natural response is to push it away, to deny it, to starve it. It only makes it more hungry. But once you have the person in one chair and this part or ghost in the other, and they actually begin to talk and share their feelings and their needs and their wants, they integrate. And the ghost doesn't. Once the ghost integrates, it's not a ghost anymore. It's back to being a whole person. So yeah, that disassociation is important. That's an excellent observation. Anyone else?
Would there be any situations where you wouldn't bring up the idea of the ghost at all? Because obviously, not every idea of a treatment would be suitable for everybody. I was just wondering, what sort of person would you not use this idea with?
Well, yeah, understanding if you call it a ghost, that has a lot of cultural baggage to it, so you're going to have to qualify it. You can call it a part of themselves if they recognize it as a separate part they're sort of fighting against. And I think some incidences where you wouldn't have to work on it is when what they really need is an emotional resource. They want a sense of calm in a chaotic environment. And they know they've had that calm, but in that environment, they cannot have it. So in that case, you don't have to do the dissociation. You just have to build this sense of calm and get present and then put them in the environment with this sense of calm. And that's the part that you can do from the very first of the sessions that I have, where I use a symbology process to build the feeling that's most important to them. So this does not apply to everybody, but if someone has a Buddhist background and they understand the concept of a hungry ghost, I think it could apply really well. You would have to sort of do it from a person-to-person basis.
Flip side would
All
be
right.
the Buddhist tulpa thought form.
Yes, the tulpa. Yeah, the tulpa is something that people intentionally create to actually become an intentional spirit or entity, hopefully to guide them and encourage them and keep them strong. But there has been many stories of a tulpa being created and doing what it damn well wants, regardless of who created it. So yeah, it's always a cautionary tale. All right.
Any situation where the The standard Catholic exorcism of I cast you out would apply. It doesn't seem to apply with a person's mind because something that's already in there, you're not really going to cast it out. Not
Yeah,
easily at any
that's-
rate.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I knew a fellow who he was a practicing magician and he did exorcisms. And it's a story he wrote. And he said he had this one person who had this demon attached to him. And he got his friend who did these exorcisms and exorcised the demon, and she felt great, but it moved on and started doing things to family members. So I, from a psychological point of view, from the holistic point of view, the casting out and cursing this and destroying it, I don't see it being ecological in any sort of way. I would open myself to alternatives, but from a psychological point of view, it's just not an ecological way of helping somebody. Good question, by the way. Okay. Any other questions? Any other observations? All right. So I didn't say this is going to be long, but I love the topic. Alex, you were saying something? We didn't hear you.
Something, yep, something obscure. Mm-hmm. Some, yes, yes. The topic of identifying
Okay.
the
Just pause for a moment.
the hungry ghost
You're
as a
breaking up a
demon.
whole lot. You're breaking up
It
a
just
whole lot.
reminded me of something that I read.
Okay, go ahead.
Was for a time very interested in the teacher Crowley. I considered him to be a bit of a blowhard after a while, but one thing stuck out. He wrote a treatise on the Lesser Key of Solomon. Which is breaking up? I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, you're breaking up
Can
a lot.
you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, you were
Okay.
talking about the Lesser Key of Solomon, and someone was reading a treatise on it.
Chatter. The occultist Aleister Crowley from the last century treatise on a book called The Lesser Key of Solomon, which is called Geisha. I think that's how it's pronounced. He wrote, every demon in a person's brain. Sorry. Write it down. Every demon is inside a person's mind. It's part of us. So half a century ago, had he thought things through, would have been the perfect way to summon a person's demon, address it, do exactly what we're discussing here. Find a way of meeting its needs and banishing it by fulfilling it rather than trying to starve it, trying to wave a cross in the air or something like that. I think he had a piece of something, but he never got around to filling everything. He never got to, to grasp something completely. But with that, I think he was on the verge of getting something which would have transformed his practice and gone from the occult to something concrete, something practical, as it were, something with a good deal of use among even ordinary people.
Yeah, good point. When it comes to there's a quote
from time when I was flirting.
Okay. There was a quote from Friedrich Nietzsche, which goes something like, "Be careful when you exercise your demons, because you may may be getting part of you. I think that's ironically humorous too. All right, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, whoever are listening, this has been a good conversation. If once again, we do this every week. I hope this has been insightful and beneficial. Please, if you're listening to this on YouTube, do a like, listen all the way through if you can, and give a comment. And again, thank you very much for showing up. You have my blessings because you're here. You're not somewhere else. And so you definitely took a sacrifice, something to be here. I am ever grateful for your sacrifice to be here. And guys, thank you so much. Please take care.
And thank you for taking the time to do the researches for a very interesting topic, David. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Alex, Dwayne, thanks again. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Good weekend.
My pleasure.